Hey, what is going on guys? My name is Ending and I'm back for another Fortnite video. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to hit all of your shots in Fortnite, or in other words, never miss any of your shots. Practically have the best accuracy that you can, within reason of course, in Fortnite Battle Royale, but not with any item in Fortnite, specifically shotguns. I actually wanted to make a video focused on shotguns opposed to every weapon category, just because I feel like shotguns are complex and kind of have their own path in regards to accuracy. When it comes to items like ARs and snipers, you're pretty much always going to be aimed down sights with these. It's relatively straightforward and accuracy just comes with practice. However, when it comes to shotguns and SMGs as well, it's a lot more complex and there's more to it. Sometimes you're not aimed down sights, sometimes you are. There's obviously bullet spray. There's a lot that plays into part with shotgun accuracy. So today's video, I want to go over everything that I have found extremely important to help me have near perfect accuracy in Fortnite Battle Royale. So after watching the entirety of this video and implementing every tip and trick that I share with you, you should be able to see that you're hitting pretty much nearly every shot that you take in Fortnite. So firstly, we'll be talking about the look input curve. The look input curve is a setting that is specifically made for controller players to have more control over their aim and accuracy, as well as their look stick, which is the right analog stick. So there's two look input curves. There's one known as exponential, which is widely used, and then the second and less commonly used one is known as linear. Now, exponential essentially means basically when you move your analog stick all the way to the right, for instance, the game would react as such. And also, if you were to move your analog stick just slightly, the game would look just slightly, it would turn slowly. Whereas linear basically has more of a raw stick input. Whereas if you were to put your analog stick in either direction all the way, the game of course would react as such, but in the instances where you barely move your analog stick in either direction, the game would still act as if you're moving it all the way. Now I know it might sound confusing, and even to some people it might sound really difficult to use, but I can promise you guys this is pretty much what all of the pro controller Fortnite players use, and I've used both exponential and linear for a very long time. And I can easily state with confidence that linear is going to be your best option when it comes to having better accuracy in Fortnite, and also just having more control over all of your movements, from building, editing, of course aiming as well. Linear is going to be your best friend opposed to exponential. It just gives you way more sense of control and a snappier feeling, allowing for flick shots. Now if you're a player that's always used exponential and just barely used linear if at all, I can guarantee when you make the switch over, it's going to be a drastic change, and you're likely going to dislike it quite a bit. It's going to feel very unnatural, and this is obviously pretty much what is bound to happen. Now I guarantee, however, if you give it about 2 days or so to get used to linear look input curve, you will never look back to exponential, and you will see that this alone can honestly transform your gameplay from like average to way above average. Again, as I stated, most pro control players, probably all pro control players, use linear look input curve, and you should as well. This leads me to the next section of today's video, and this is going to be our sensitivity settings. Sensitivity settings kind of go hand in hand with your look input curve. And with us being on linear, we kind of want to use a bit lower of sensitivity settings. So the ones we're going to be looking at are going to be our ADS sensitivity, as well as our general look sensitivity, both vertical and horizontal. Now I don't want to dive too in depth about my settings and allow you guys to replicate them. If you would like, there will be a card at the top right of the screen right now that you can click that will be sharing with you guys what I consider to be aimbot settings. These are pretty much going to be the absolute best settings any player can use, especially on controller, for pretty much having near aimbot accuracy. But it also does come down to personal preference. This is kind of a subjective setting. Some players will do great on higher sensitivities, and then other players will do better on the contrary. So this is something you kind of have to mess with yourself if you're not replicating my aimbot settings in my other videos. So kind of just try different settings out, see which works best for you, and you'll eventually be able to narrow down your best sensitivity settings. A lot of people typically do use settings that are a lot higher than what they should be using. A lot of people think that it actually makes them better and snappier and quicker movements, but this typically is not the case. So whenever I play currently and I feel like some of my shots aren't hitting, the first thing I do before anything else is I lower my sensitivity settings. Not too much, maybe like 10% if that, and I typically will see within literally a few seconds, like instantly, that my aim has already increased drastically. Again, this is just because of the simple fact that a lot of people like to use faster sensitivity settings than what they should be using in Fortnite. So what I want you guys to do, even if you're extremely comfortable with your sensitivity settings, just lower them after you watch this video. Lower them like 10%, and I can almost guarantee that you'll see an immediate and drastic improvement within your accuracy. Because again, as I stated, most players actually use a lot higher sensitivity settings than they should be, despite feeling comfortable on them. So far we've covered covered the look input curve of linear and why this is honestly probably one of the most important parts of today's video, and we've also covered our sensitivity settings. Now lastly for these settings is actually going to be our look stick dead zone. Our look stick dead zone essentially is going to be the dead zone of our right analog stick, which again of course controls everything from building to editing as well as aiming and accuracy. So I strongly recommend everybody use around an 8 to a 10% look stick dead zone. This is also kind of going hand in hand with your linear look input curve. Basically when you lower your dead zone to around an 8, 9, or a 10%, it allows for you to have more control, the game to react faster when you move this analog stick, and also to have more fast and snappier movements. Once again, this is going to play a huge part with landing flick shots. So now moving on, we're going to be talking about some more practical tips, tricks, and general practice that can allow you guys to pretty much perfect your accuracy. First of all, one of the most common mistakes that people make in Fortnite is that they hold or rest their crosshairs at a lower point than they should be. And it seems pretty natural. Most games when you're moving around, especially in a third person game, you're likely going to keep your crosshair aimed at the ground. It's just natural, most people do it, it literally is like second nature. However, we need to have the self-awareness to basically raise our crosshairs to around mid-level of the screen. Basically just imagine a player is in front of you and picture where their upper torso to head level would be. And this is where you kind of want to get used to resting your crosshairs. This actually plays a huge part, especially with shotguns in Fortnite. A lot of times when you're using a shotgun in Fortnite, obviously it's going to be close range battle. So if you're keeping your crosshair lower than what it should be, granted you might still hit your shot on the body, but you're likely going to be dealing like 20 damage or 40 damage. This is why a lot of times people will complain that they're landing 20 to 40 damage shots, whereas the opponent is landing upwards to 200 damage shots on them. The main reason is just because of where you are resting your crosshair. So if we do get to the point where we're resting the crosshair at typical chest, torso, and head level for our opponents, then we won't actually have a disadvantage against them. This is pretty much going to be the main change you're going to see in regards to landing higher damage shots. So obviously accuracy does play a huge part in this, but once you do have your accuracy down, definitely make sure that you are resting your crosshair at head level. And after you make this change, you will now see that the 200 damage shots, 150 damage shots are going to be more common in everyday Fortnite games for you, opposed to the typical 20, 30, 40 damage shots that you're likely landing against opponents now. Now the next part of today's video, and likely the last part, is actually going to be aim training courses. These are honestly very important, and unfortunately I feel like a lot of people overlook this tip, trick, or method. As I'm sure a lot of you guys know, there's actually creative maps in Fortnite where players can make their own creative maps. They're typically like death runs, obstacle courses, and things like that. However, players actually have made aim training courses where you load into a map and there's actually like targets that you need to hit. They pop up, they move, they do all sorts of different things, and they allow for you basically to improve your accuracy by practicing taking shots on them. Now I'd like to take it a step further. Not only do I like to use these aim training courses, but I actually like to go to the extreme and turn off all of my HUD, which is pretty much the heads up display. So my crosshairs off, my health, my ammo, basically my entire screen is blank besides what you typically see in game. But the main part is, again, the crosshairs are no longer in the game. So basically I have no idea of knowing where my shots are going to be landing. What this does is it kind of implements in your brain and in your thought process of pretty much where your shots are going. And it's actually pretty useful. I think this is honestly one of the most important parts of any warm-up routine, is to go into an aim training course in creative, turn off your HUD, and just practice taking shots on these targets. Once you start to land a lot of shots without HUD, then it goes without saying that when you use HUD, you'll likely have like 2 times better accuracy. So basically, again, as I mentioned, I'll just practice not using HUD. I'll try a couple different aim training courses, again, not using HUD. And once I see that I'm landing pretty much majority of my shots, then I'll go on and I'll reset my HUD settings so I now have my crosshair. And pretty much you'll see now that you're landing probably, I'd say like 90 to 95% of your shots in Fortnite. Obviously, bloom does play a huge factor in accuracy in Fortnite, and this is obviously out of our control. So it's inevitable that especially in game, you're going to be missing some shots just because of the bloom spray. But if you can at least get your crosshair to pretty much track and to stay on your opponent's body at all times, then this is going to be very important. And this is basically what these aim training courses are allowing us to do. It allows us to snap onto targets quickly. Say if they were standing still in a distance, And also there's going to be ones like you see in the background right now where it actually has an opponent kind of just moving, and it allows us to improve and increase our tracking accuracy. This might honestly just be one of the most important parts of this video, and if you have made it this far, then pretty much you can implement everything that I shared in today's video. Again, we started off with the look input curve of linear and why this is extremely important and why most pro players, if not all pro players on controller, use this setting. We then talked about sensitivity settings and why they're very important. I also briefly touched on why they're actually a bit subjective and how to pretty much improve your accuracy immediately just by simply tweaking your sensitivity setting. And then next we talked about dead zones and why this is also very important. Next we talked about resting your crosshairs at head level and why basically you need to kind of have self-awareness and get used to keeping them a bit higher than what most people keep them at. This is going to be the main change that we see in regards to landing not only more shots but also more damage on our shots. So this is where you'll actually start to see 150, 200 damage consistently in game. And then lastly, we went a bit more in depth about aim training courses and basically the method that I use by starting off with using no HUD at all and then eventually transitioning into using HUD. And then obviously once you go into a game after that routine, you'll see you're going to be landing pretty much every single shot that you take, probably having the best accuracy in the entire Fortnite Battle Royale lobby. Now after implementing everything I just shared with you guys in this video, I can guarantee you will see an immediate and drastic change and improvement in your accuracy in Fortnite. This is pretty much how you guys can land every shot in Fortnite Battle Royale with shotguns and never miss again. Now if you guys enjoyed today's video or found it helpful, a like would be beyond appreciated down below. And of course, on the contrary, if you genuinely dislike today's video, then by all means feel free to leave a dislike as well. And if you're new around here and would like to see more daily Fortnite content like this in the future, feel free to subscribe as well as turning on those post notifications. Nonetheless, my name is InTheGamerTag. Thank you all for watching today's video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Adios.